Welcome, everybody. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are still making music beyond the classroom. My engagement in music making of what I call lifelong learning in music education. I'm so excited that you are here. We're sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We do things such as fix instruments, we do lessons, we also do a few performance initiatives you can check out. One being the annual Community Band by the Sea down in Wildwood, New Jersey, which happens the end of July each year. And this year for 2025, it's going to be our fifth year. We also have done the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where we recreated a steel industrial band. And we're planning on doing that again in 2025, plus as well as Tuba Christmases. And who knows, we might add another one. You never know, because we have these different performance initiatives going on. So check out www.artmusicemporium.com. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit subscribe so you can hear our other videos. We also are on Facebook, so please like us there. And we also have a Patreon account. Again, all the proceeds go to helping folks continue making music beyond the classroom, I say. I'm so excited about our next guest. I actually met her when I was performing in the community groups, and I'm still performing in the community groups up in the Hudson Valley in New York State around Poughkeepsie. And what I kind of really, it was very interesting is I saw her fluctuate between both a band and an orchestra, which is really cool. And I see her always, every group I go to, she's there, which is, I think, is great. And then I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's just to see the motivation. The funny thing, not really funny, is her main job is not that. She's not into music as far as her main job, which is okay. And that's why I like to tell these kind of stories. So please welcome Jen Henion. How are you doing, Jen?
Good. How are you, Josh? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being on this. I thought and what we talked about a little bit, I thought maybe we'll start a little bit about what got you interested in music, just because I usually like to start there, just because I know a lot of folks really, I think it's experiences sometimes. I could be wrong, but I think it's those experiences that start. So I don't know if you want to disclose some of that of where you started and some sort of things. And then, like I said, we want to jump into those community groups and your motivation.
Sure. So I'll go back to the very beginning when I was a child. My parents would play music for me regularly, but I think the kind of the genesis of how I play a bunch of instruments is that my father played the trumpet, my mother played the violin, and they were both teachers. So they had to learn to play piano when they were in college to become teachers.
Hmm.
And they wished that they already knew how to play piano. So when
Hmm.
I was 5, I started at Yamaha Music School to learn how to play piano, like starting on organ, because at 5 I was very small. And then by third grade, I started violin in the orchestra at my elementary school. And my dad started teaching me trumpet because band didn't start until fourth grade. So it was age 5 and age 8, I started on piano, then trumpet and violin.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's literally how it started. And then I've continued with all of them since and added a few instruments that I kind of dabble in. But that's really how it started as a child. Just I started playing these instruments and I've never stopped.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that because one thing, like I said, I met you in more of a, I think the band world first, and then I
Yes.
was like, oh, she plays violin. This is awesome. So it's just,
Yes.
it's kind of neat that you kind of kept those. If I may ask, I mean, other than, and I really agree that family is a really strong supporter of music, right? Because I think, just probably hearing the piano being played in the house or getting, as I say, the nice little slightly push to take those lessons, right? So, but I was just interested. Do you remember anything about, that time that really interests you, either about music making or anything as far as, even playing the trumpet or the violin that just really made it, really passionate to you that again, you're still doing it today?
So I think the social aspect was less back then. I mean, I did enjoy playing in groups with friends in elementary school and beyond, but back then I think it was little things. Like it sounds weird, but for violin, when I started playing, I really loved the smell of rosin for some reason on the
Okay.
bow, and I
Yeah.
liked putting rosin on the bow, and I still do. But I try not to sniff it too often because people might weird, but I do like the smell of rosin. So I think that's something that just kind of like attached me to the violin because I was going to
Yeah.
play the violin anyway, so I have a younger brother. He got to pick whatever instrument he wanted, but my parents had like a vision of what instruments they wanted their offspring to play. So they had me play all three of their wish list instruments. And then my brother was free to pick what he wanted. And then on trumpet, I'd say so that first year that I took lessons with my dad
Yeah.
trumpet, before band started in elementary school, I liked I loved the way the trumpet looked and how simple it is with the three
Mhm.
valves. And my dad did the typical dad thing where before I could play it, he made me take it apart and we washed it together. And again, I was 8 years old, so I probably was not that mechanically inclined,
Sure.
but I just kind of fell in love with like literally that trumpet, but the trumpet in general as well, how it looked, how it functioned, how you could clean it, how you could make it look really nice. And I still do play on that trumpet. I have other trumpets as well, but that original trumpet, I think, is one of the reasons I've kept playing trumpet because I just never want to stop playing that trumpet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Hey, and I just want to tell you this. I just want to share this. I know the smell of the rosin and no thing. You might think that's weird, but let me just tell
I
you
think it's weird.
something. This is something I talked with actually my wife's aunt. Her husband was a repair a person like myself, and he helped me kind of get started with repair and those kind of things. Well, she came to
Cool.
visit us one time, and we were working on putting pads in an instrument and different things. And she loved the smells because it brought back so many memories. So like even
Right.
though it's not, and I think that might not saying that what it is for you, but just smelling that, those smells, it's
Mhm.
like, it's just like you feel like you're in that state again where you're, picking up your
Exactly.
instrument, you know what I mean? So there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I
I
mean?
think you're right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and
very,
the familiarity of like the trumpet and the violin, no matter what instrument you're playing, they feel somewhat similar. And the trumpet and kind of like having the three valves and the feel of your fingertips on those valves, I feel like it's special.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I just wanted to also share with you, like there's certain valve oils that, you just know the scent, it's
Yes,
just for a
exactly.
brass
And
instrument.
so there are a few valve oils that I really like, which again, it's weird to have like favorite valve oils.
Mhm.
Some of them I like because of how they look. So I like Blue Juice because of the way it looks. And
Uh-huh.
then there's another one called Fat Cat that's pink and it has a cat on it.
Yep.
So like not every trumpeter is into pink or cats, but I
Right.
am. So I feel like it's a me valve oil. So whenever I can get that Fat Cat oil that's pink and has a cat on it,
Yep.
I want it because I feel like the brand understands who I am, that I need to have pink valve oil with a cat. And I don't think the valve oil itself is actually pink. It's just the packaging,
Yeah, the packaging,
luckily,
yeah.
because that would probably be bad. I don't think anyone would approve of pink valve oil.
Yeah, right. But no, I mean, definitely. I mean, definitely. Whenever you can say that, kind of, bring your identity in. I mean, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Because I mean, there's so many brands out there. So you might as well find something that's kind of cool and makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. So, just kind of retrace a little bit. You went through, you were in kind of high school and probably, playing through school. And then if you could just talk a little bit about that, what happened to me, was there any time that I'm assuming going on the college and those kind of things, if you played or if there was any times that you didn't play, like I was just interested about
Sure.
that if I could hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's actually I feel like it's an interesting story. So through high school, I played all of them and I competed at the highest level for NISMA on violin, piano, and trumpet. Like I
That's
did a
awesome.
level 6 solo my junior year on all three of them,
Wow.
which is challenging. But then when I got to college, as you can imagine, like I still played all three, but it became
Hmm.
a challenge because I wasn't majoring in music. Like I could have
Yeah.
minored in music, but I was majoring in French and economics, and I ultimately went on to work in business and to get my MBA. But in college, I was a first violinist. I played trumpet in the jazz band. I took very competitive piano lessons that required 2 hours of practice a day with a world-renowned internationally international touring pianist who had very high expectations.
Wow.
And then at times I took trumpet lessons, and I also led. We had a group of musicians that would go into nursing homes locally. So I went to
Yeah.
Vassar College, and we would go into the local nursing homes and perform. So I was a leader for that group. So I was doing a lot with music, and but I was also like editor of the daily paper,
Mm.
co-president of the French club, doing all of these academics, and I did study abroad in Paris. So it was hard to keep all of the balls in the air at the same
Yeah,
time.
totally get
And
it.
my last, yeah, so I kept everything in the air, but little by little. So as you could probably tell by my description of those piano lessons, it wasn't a good fit for me.
Hmm.
So I had studied piano privately really long term, like I had been taking lessons since the age of 5.
Okay.
So once I was to my junior year at Vassar, I stopped taking piano lessons because I could play and perform in the
Hmm.
community, but the lessons were not really a fit with what I was looking to do. So I'm glad I had that experience, because a lot of
Yeah,
times you don't get to study with someone of that caliber. But it
right.
it just like to spend 2 hours a day on something that I wasn't going to probably devote my life to, playing classical
Yeah.
piano the rest of my life, at that level. It just didn't make sense. And then the same thing with orchestra. My final year at Vassar, I actually did not play in the orchestra,
Hmm.
because to be a first violinist, I was getting calls from the conductor, like if I had to miss a rehearsal, which I didn't do often, but like let's say there was a deadline for the paper and someone dropped the ball and I'm an editor in chief, I can't be at orchestra practice and get
Yeah.
the newspaper to the printer by 9 p.m. if I'm in orchestra from 7 to 9. But I didn't do that a lot. But because I was a first violinist, I kept getting reminded there are 17 people who want your chair. So which is true.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I
Yeah.
played when I did, but I had to make those decisions little by
Yep.
little.
Yeah.
So at the end of college, I focused more on trumpet, because so I was lucky. I had Jim Osborne as my teacher in high
Hmm.
school
Hmm.
and college.
Okay.
And I took private lessons from him on trumpet in college, played in the jazz band, which was actually
Hmm.
the only group at Vassar aside
Hmm.
from the orchestra where you could play trumpet. And I was
Yeah.
playing violin in the orchestra, so obviously I couldn't play trumpet there. But I was lucky I got to study with Jim so long. So my senior year, I did jazz ensemble and trumpet lessons, and I didn't do anything with violin and piano officially. I was
Right.
still playing them, and I was still playing in the community, but I kind of liked that because I had taken violin and
Hmm.
piano lessons my whole life.
Right.
So having a year without it was kind of nice, and it also showed me that there is a point where you can stop taking lessons and everything will be okay.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. And that well, I know because like, I always bring up this kind of idea of how life takes over, whether or not with, your focus of your degree, right? Because, and I
Right,
understand not necessarily not that, like I said, there's anything wrong with not going into music. But you're working on, finishing your bachelor's, then your master's and getting a job, and
right.
there's all these different things. But it seems other than and I could be wrong, but it seems other than lesson wise, you really didn't stop playing, right? There was no time
Correct.
that you didn't really play. Okay, well, that's cool. And I was just
Correct.
interested, like, other than making those decisions,
Mhm,
as far as like, because I know, unfortunately, I wish there was, 48 hours or something in a day, but
mhm.
then I would probably be working 46 hours in a day, like everybody else. But, but,
You'd still have the 1 hour of flexible time that you
yeah,
decide what to do with. Yeah.
exactly. I'll have that, and either sleep or, do something, right? But thinking of that, like what motivated you to just continue to play or continue playing in the community? I mean, was it other than I mean, I granted that you kind of started feeling it was time to stop with lessons, and that's okay. But like
Yeah.
because what I'm getting at is what I look in a lot of folks is just kind of their motivation of just kind of keep playing, keep playing, keep playing, and which you are, and I'm just interested in that if you could share that as much as you can.
So at that point, I'd say my motivation is probably different now, but back
Hmm.
in college, the playing was really because I saw how people responded to
Right.
hearing the music, and especially since a lot of my performances, so like jazz band, we do performances in the concert hall at Vassar, and it was like a typical or audience, and there was gratitude. But when I did those performances in the community in the nursing homes, they were so grateful. So even if it was
Yeah.
just a little group of, a brass quintet or a string quartet or just me playing piano, they didn't always have that opportunity. So there are people going into nursing homes and playing, but it's not on a regular basis. And sometimes, a resident might be in physical therapy and they can't see a given performance. So
Right.
I just felt like it was special. So given that a lot of my playing was literally performing,
Hmm.
playing things that I already knew or playing relatively simple music in groups. I
Hmm.
enjoyed playing with the other people, but I think it was at that point the motivation was seeing the impact on other people.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I mean, it's something to say when, people are really getting into it. And especially, that's a great spot to go to just because,
Right,
not to say the wrong thing here, but the, nursing home where people can't get out that much. And when you bring
right.
something to them, how cherished they are. And, I don't know, like, I don't know how you would describe it, and I don't know if you want to think about it, but something for me is just, seeing that like light bulb go on in their heads, when
Yes.
they're, with anybody in an audience. But, and I was just interested, is there anything particularly in the gratitude that you saw, or
Yes.
of the interest that you would like to talk about as far as like audiences, sucking in that music?
Definitely. So I'd say the biggest gratitude was so people have their favorite music. So even if their memory isn't really that great right now,
Mhm.
so people who might be suffering from dementia, they still remember the music of their youth, the music
Yeah.
of their younger years in general. So I can play by ear. So especially on piano, I would take requests and people would, have tears in their eyes because they were
Wow.
hearing the music that you can't just, unless they happen to have a CD or tape of that music from
Right.
1930 or whatever, they
Right.
can't just hear it on demand. So if it's a piece I know, like if it's a piece I can hear in my head, and if it like now I can look things up. Back then, typically it was pieces that I was familiar with because my grandparents, like I knew a good amount of music
Yeah.
of people who might be in a nursing home, like the type of music they
Yeah.
might
The
like.
age, right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that you have to, that's something to say, because I think like, it's reliving, I guess it's like reliving those experiences, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Especially when they hear those tunes, they'll go back in that time and maybe even, just like you kind of said it too, you're thinking that, oh, I play, I play these tunes and I remember them from my grandmother, like, just because you'll
Exactly.
know those times and obviously you've heard them before if you're playing them by ear, which kudos to you.
Mhm.
I wish I had that trait. I could do some, but not as much. But that's awesome. So as you're moving, like I said, moving, through life and more in adulthood and all that kind of stuff, I thought, I just thought I'd ask you just a little bit because I know you're in quite a bit of, community music groups up in the Hudson Valley, for example.
Yes.
And as I said jokingly in the beginning, yes, I do see you quite a bit and playing, and obviously both on violin and trumpet, and obviously am in a couple of those groups with you. So I was just
And
interested
horn
to,
too.
yeah, 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 definitely. And I was just interested if you could share a little bit more, like, what your motivations are today to kind of just continue playing,
Sure.
especially we're in the winter months now, right? And it's cold,
That's
and especially
true.
when they rehearse on the evenings and it's, below 20. We're still going to rehearsal.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I thought maybe you could share just a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'll share about that and then I'll kind of backtrack to graduate school because
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
little anecdote I'll tell about that.
Oh, cool.
But
Yeah.
I'll
Awesome.
start with the motivation, kind of the motivation that's probably been since graduate school and beyond, which
Okay.
is connecting with people who I'm playing with. So I mean, I still love playing for the audience, but now I think part of it is having that group of friends who are playing with
Yeah.
me. So whether it's at DCC or Southern Dutchess Concert Band
Hmm.
or the now disbanded the Roosevelt High School Alumni Band
Hmm.
was a group that I played in like since I was in high school. Actually, I was allowed to play until
Okay.
we disbanded a few years ago. So in all of those groups, I love getting together with my friends. So
Hmm.
I've built a group of friends who are in these different groups. And like you've seen, Josh, like a lot of times it is similar people in different groups,
Yeah.
different combinations, but
Yep.
like you'll see the same people, whether we're down in Fishkill or at DCC or
Yeah.
wherever. Like there are some overlap in the musicians. And the social aspect was also when I was in graduate school, I went to the MBA program at the University of Rochester.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't studying music at all because it's a separate school, but
Hmm.
my friend from the first violin section at Vassar, who was concertmaster, he was studying at the University of Rochester, and we both got
Hmm.
into the Vassar alumni network in Rochester.
Oh, wow.
So I would do interviews with local students, and my friend Paul and I would get together with the
Hmm.
alums locally, and then he would invite me to play with some of the quartets and some of his friends from the Eastman School. So I was able to keep playing and playing at a level where when I was out of graduate
Hmm.
school, I when I founded Northern Dutchess Symphony Orchestra, I was still good enough to play in it.
Hmm.
So that's a professional orchestra. Kathleen Beckman and I worked
Hmm.
on it back in 2006. So at this point, like I'm playing in community groups, I'm playing for fun, I'm playing for socialization, I'm playing to keep my skills up. But
Yeah.
back then, I was good enough to play in a professional orchestra. So that was great. But then I started seeing all of the potential of the orchestra, and I'm
Hmm.
in charge of running the audience side of the concert. So
Okay.
I'm in charge of getting all of the volunteers, setting up exactly what we'll do, like literally what tables do we have in the lobby, who's going
Yeah.
to be taking the tickets, what's the process, all of
Yeah.
that. So when I first started and I was working on the business side to make sure we have funding for our orchestra,
Uh-huh.
I was also on the stage, so I would have like the flowers to present to the soloist under my chair, but I was playing on the stage. So eventually, like with deciding on lessons, like it just made sense for me to be on the audience side rather than sitting on the stage for the most part.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know that actually. I didn't know all that the backstory with that. I know I've talked to them a little bit. I've been trying to, infiltrate that a little bit just to hear how that kind of group kind of hurt started, just because I think it's neat that,
Yes.
especially in the area that, now there's a professional orchestra and how it got
Mhm.
started. And, it's not, I know it's been a while now, but it's not too long
Yeah, we're
ago to
going
kind
into
of,
our 20th year.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool to hear about. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, I mean, it's really like one thing aside of that really quickly, it's just kind of interesting, other than the socialization. And I don't want to say it's the wrong way. You kind of found your way into like all these different really high-end groups, which is awesome. You know what I mean? Like especially with Eastman School of Music, obviously, that
Right.
you're out there for other, reasons, but still playing along with them or taking lessons with, a pianist that, is like world renowned. I mean, that's
Yes.
just that's the fun things, that I, find. And the reason why I'm saying that is just because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think a lot of those experiences really help kind of motivate you more, just because even though that they're, technically, and I want to say it's the wrong way, the music majors get those, but like
Mhm.
I truly don't believe that. I mean, anybody who's really making music, but should be getting those experiences. But it's really neat that
Mhm.
you got that in the kind of the community side. So awesome.
Yeah.
So, as you're moving forward, with this, and it's something I just wanted to kind of ask you, you're obviously a true supporter of community groups and community music. Is there anything, that comes to mind of why you do it? Why you do it as far as, for the community, hence
Mhm.
help get the, the symphony orchestra get started, the Northern
Right.
Dutchess Symphony Orchestra, and obviously continue playing. I like to ask that question just because
Sure.
I'm just interested to hear your interest in community music making. I guess I'll say it that way.
So in a general sense, so kind of thinking about Northern Dutchess Symphony Orchestra, the original impetus was that we saw the Bardavon and the
Mhm.
concerts there. The average family couldn't afford to go there. So there were great
Okay.
performances. There are probably open seats for some of the performances. But if
Hmm.
you think of even a family of four, a lot of people can't afford to get those tickets to
Right.
see a concert, at least on a regular basis. It would be
Okay.
like really a special treat. So we wanted to make sure that families and people in general had the opportunity to see a professional caliber orchestra perform live.
Right.
And then Kathy, who is the artistic director, she really selects music that gives people a combination of exposure to music they know and music that they should know and that they
Right.
will love. So that's really been the impetus to keep working on Northern Dutchess Symphony Orchestra um, as an organization, because I think that's kind of unique. It's not about me playing because
Hmm.
I'm not generally playing in the group, but
Right.
I get to, honestly, I get to see the audience, the impact on the audience more so being
Hmm.
in the lobby and the audience and interacting with everyone
Yeah.
and like being the representative when the Chamber of Commerce locally, Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, I go and I promote the orchestra so that people who don't know about us, because
Yeah.
even though we've been around for 20 years, there are so many people who don't
Mm.
know that we exist.
Yeah.
Even people who live like in the backyard of the couple of venues that we typically perform.
Hmm.
So getting to give people that experience the first time, like there was um, someone who I met locally recently. He used to go to orchestra performances in Pennsylvania with his grandmother. He just
Mm.
moved here to take a job. He's the representative at the chamber. I gave him tickets to come for the first time to the concert, and
Yeah.
now he's a regular concert goer because it reminded him of his experience going to the symphony with his grandmother growing up, and he was
Right.
looking for that experience here.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's awesome that you're a strong advocate for that, because just like I said, I know it's neat to hear how you're trying to make it more affordable and, available for everybody. I mean, that's
Right.
what I have to say because I feel like, sometimes, I know the bigger shows they get expensive and there's places and
Yes.
it's hard. You know what I mean? I get all of
Yes.
that. All comes down to money, and that's not the point of this, but
Right.
one thing, you know, uh, I'm just interested to kind of hear, is there any, as the years of helping with the orchestra or, any other groups, as far as like, have you noticed like, well, I guess I'll say this twofold. Have you noticed any motivation coming from the audiences to come out or anything that I guess your goals are that you're gonna try to get folks to come out? Because I'm always interested in that just because I let me give you the little side note of where I'm coming from a little bit.
Sure.
I'm sure you probably know a lot of the community groups back in the day. There used to be tons of community groups and tons of concerts going on at all the time. And not that they don't exist, because they do, but
Mhm.
lately, I feel like it's kind of gone downhill a little bit because, not so many people go. Sometimes people don't participate in these different groups anymore, that kind of thing. So I'm a strong promoter of, keeping music alive in a community. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just because, unfortunately, we don't want to see it all go out the wayside. Not that, again, that's
Yeah.
happening everywhere. It's like I said, I know I'm new to the Hudson Valley, but it seems like there's tons of concerts going on, but I was just interested what your kind of take is on it, as far as goals of performances, of audience, of that kind of thing.
So, I mean, for the orchestra, for my own orchestra specifically, obviously, we want to keep performing and to reach more people and to have an
Yeah,
impact, including with children. So, we do children's concerts where elementary school children come in and learn about instruments
that's
and
cool.
see a concert during the school year. But for the like attracting audiences and keeping performances up, I do love performing with community groups and
Hmm.
one of the community orchestra that you and I play in together
Hmm.
was at risk of not continuing at one point
Hmm.
for lack of funding and lack of enrollment at
Yeah.
different times, like over the past several years, and
Hmm.
kind of independent of the COVID pandemic. There were challenges with finding people to play. There still are. We could use
Yeah.
all the strings we can get at DCC. If anyone plays a string instrument and wants to play, reach out to Josh or me, and we'd love to have you play.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'd say with the audience, it is hard to get people to come to concerts
Yeah.
sometimes. I love that they're recorded so that it's there for people to listen to, but I do miss sometimes when there's a small audience, you wonder, like, you've invited people, a lot of people couldn't make it. Like, how do you have that happy
Hmm.
medium of like having enough people to play, having enough people in the audience?
Hmm.
And there are so many performances out there. I know I personally am invited to shows that I can't get to that I'd
Right.
love to see, but you just have to make choices of how
Yeah.
many hours you can spend going to concerts that you're not playing in.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. I know because I guess my thing is like it becomes because there's so much saturated, with
Right.
things out there, and of course, we have all
Mhm.
tons of technology, right? So you can kind of dial into anything you want to go. But I'm always looking at, what those instances are of like a concert that you're not going to miss. You know what I mean? Saying stuff like
Yeah.
that just because those are the goals that I'm always looking for myself. But that's very interesting. And I know it's like sometimes like, for example, like the couple of groups that we're in
Mhm.
sometimes, we rehearse, we spend all this time and energy and,
Yes.
rehearsing. And then it's sad sometimes. I mean, I know necessarily we don't always do it for the audience, but it's sad when, there's only, less than the ensemble that we're in the audience, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I think for Southern Dutchess Concert Band, Dave and Marie Cole do a great job of publicizing, making sure we're working with municipalities that are going to put it out. I don't remember there being a Southern Dutchess Concert Band concert where there's not a robust audience out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, we have to contend with the weather because we're playing in the nicer months outside for the most part,
Yeah.
but typically we get a really good audience, and that's a huge group of musicians. So even if the audience is smaller than the band, it's not necessarily a bad thing because that band is so big.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I know, and I know I'm actually Dave, he's supposedly going to be on one of these pretty soon. I know he's been busy. I'm trying to talk to him a little bit too, because I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's nice when you got that link with the municipalities or link with,
Yeah.
like how you're doing with the Chamber of Commerce, for example, that you're
Mhm.
still promoting, these community groups because unfortunately, if I hate saying it this, if we're not in front of them, I think not that they don't disappear, but
You get
they
forget.
won't see us, see,
Exactly.
and that's
and
sad.
and and that's where it comes in that there's so much more than music happening out in the community, so we have ties to other organizations. It's not
Yeah.
just about the music, where so for instance, like with any given orchestra, it's also kind of a tourism vehicle. So
Hmm.
someone might not literally come here to see Northern Dutchess Symphony Orchestra or Southern Dutchess Concert Band
Yeah.
perform, but if they happen to be here, how do we reach out to people who are in the area, let's say for a week, and they'd love to see a concert, especially the
Yeah.
concerts for which organizations sell tickets.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, it's definitely, especially getting on, like I said, getting involved with that tourism. So that's a great angle. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, and I know you had to make decisions a little bit, to kind of step down as far as a performer, for the Northern Duchess. But I know you do play at, the community college and you're playing and still doing it. So, I guess a little bit, beyond the socialization part, has anything changed as far as like, your ability and interest in music making? I like to ask that question just because, I
Sure.
always look at it, I think, not to fill you with your answer, but sometimes I think like, we as a kid, we're kind of experiencing it and then we kind of
Mhm.
continue to do it because that's what we've always done. And then there comes to a choice that, you continue because you want to continue. And I feel,
Right.
excuse me, that's how you are right now. You're continuing because you want to continue. And I'm trying to unlock that as much as I can. And you might not know, but,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of interested if you have anything to share.
Sure. So I'd say I enjoy playing a lot more now than I did when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, a lot of it was about perfection and competition.
Hmm.
So keeping my seat in a given group, competing at NISMA, um, like I just I enjoyed it at some level,
Hmm.
but it was more about the audience, I would say, because the actual playing was a little stressful,
Got it.
especially like trumpet and violin and piano, they're all pretty competitive instruments.
Hmm.
So like in orchestra in junior high, there was a point where someone dumped me out of my seat because she wanted to be concertmaster. And I was always first seat for my age. And like I kept playing luckily, but now that I'm looking back at it, I was thinking like, how could I really have enjoyed that with literally, from junior high through college, that experience of that conductor telling me that 17 people want my seat
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first violin section.
Yeah.
There were some factors, some kind of headwinds against the enjoyment of actually playing, whereas
Hmm.
now most of the groups I play in, I don't have to be more competitive than I want
Hmm.
to be. I can play
Right.
my best. I can play as good as I can play, even if I don't get to practice a given piece and
Hmm.
I'm not as good as I want to be, no one's really going to judge me, or if they do, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter. So I'm
Right.
enjoying playing for the sake of playing. Like on Christmas, I play Christmas carols for the family on the piano, and
Hmm.
I could practice. I'm sure I could sound a lot better, but I just sit down, I take requests, and it's about the fun, it's about the playing, it's
Yep.
about the people around me.
Yep.
And I'd say that's the social aspect is bigger now as a motivation as a reason I keep playing. And I don't have pretty much any of that competitive pressure because I don't need to maintain a seat. I
Hmm.
don't like it just feels different. It feels more freeing to play
Hmm.
today than it did years ago when I was going through school, through college. I'd say my last year in college playing in jazz band on trumpet, and I still play trumpet in a jazz band. That was freeing as well because I played to play. I didn't care what seat I was. I was taking lessons. I was
Yeah.
improving on my own terms, not to be able to compete with other people, which I
Right.
think sometimes the music programs, even though it's aimed to engender a lifelong love of music,
Hmm.
there's still that competitive aspect.
Yep.
There still has to be, you know, ranking of musicians against each
Hmm.
other. And I feel
Yep.
like when you leave school, if you're not a professional musician, you get to leave some of that behind. So
Yeah.
obviously, like in a professional orchestra or any professional musical group, there's going to be more competition than
Hmm.
I face. But when you play for fun, I feel like it's more freeing and you
Yep.
can make decisions for yourself about what you put into it.
Hmm.
And one of my motivations, because I know you're kind of peeling back the layers of what
Yeah.
motivates me, like why do I play in all these
Yeah.
groups and why do I even try new instruments?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think part of it is that I just I want to continue because I don't want to lose it, if that makes sense.
It
So
does.
once
Hmm.
you've had that feeling of
Hmm.
being part of a musical group,
Yep.
you want to be able to continue. So like on trumpet, I do need to practice sometimes because as you know, with the brass instruments, if you
Yep.
don't play, you lose your ability. Like if you don't practice within a week, you can tell 2 weeks, everybody in the world can tell that
Yeah.
you
Right.
haven't been practicing.
Yep.
Um, so some of it is I would be afraid of losing it. So
Hmm.
there was a point when I was traveling a lot for work, including overseas, and I didn't get to practice a lot, but I was
Okay.
still in the FDR alumni band, and we would
Hmm.
play in parades
Yeah.
mainly. So a lot of times we wouldn't perform except in the good weather months.
Okay.
So when I was just focused on like I was traveling more than 100% of the time, some of the
Yep.
time. So I couldn't be home to practice. At most, I could have my trumpet mouthpiece with me to buzz. But sometimes I would get to that Memorial Day parade and I wasn't playing so well. I had to take things down an octave,
Got it.
but that was okay because I was still
Yeah.
playing. But
Yeah.
I'd say now that I do play the trumpet on a regular basis at DCC year round and then
Yeah.
Southern Dutchess Concert Band in the summer and various other groups here and there, playing regularly, it makes me appreciate and enjoy playing more
Hmm.
than when I would go months and not actually have my mouthpiece in the trumpet
Got it.
on a regular basis for at
Yeah.
least a month or two because I literally like I would come home from one business trip, I'd have like a few hours to do laundry and then I'd be headed out on the next one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, you said a lot of good things. I mean, it's about not losing it, and
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, when especially you get to a certain level of where you're playing, and then yes, you don't play on your face, I call it, with the mouthpiece. Your muscles get tired, and again, I'm not a string player, but I'm pretty well certain that some of this dexterity will start going away too if you're not
It does.
doing that.
And your confidence goes away too. So I
Yep.
actually took touch up lessons maybe 8 to 10 years ago
Uh-huh.
because like I'm confident overall, but somehow playing the violin because I hadn't been playing it regularly except
Yeah.
for fun to go into like it's a community orchestra, but playing challenging music,
Yeah.
I needed to get my mojo back. And I was
Mhm.
in that orchestra. I joined that orchestra to play trumpet and then I learned how to play horn in the DCC orchestra and
Oh,
Mid
wow.
Hudson Community Orchestra. So I was asked to play violin like many years ago, and I said no, I don't want to. I want to play trumpet, and they didn't want me on trumpet because they needed violin. So
Yep.
I ended up not playing in the DCC orchestra initially because I I wanted to play trumpet. I had never gotten to play trumpet in an orchestra.
Uh-huh.
Ultimately, I did get to play that and then horn, and then I moved a little closer to the edge of the stage.
Yep. They got you. They pulled you in.
Exactly. I keep looking back at the brass row. Like Rich Simons can tell you, like the first time I went up there when he needed me there, I was like, but I belong back there. And I kept edging my seat back. But I think at this point I've moved to the edge of the stage,
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah,
as
it's
you
always
probably can tell.
yeah, it's always funny, how you're using it and how you get moved around, but that's really cool. And one other thing I wanted to kind of bring up too, really quickly, you said something that's really interesting. I think a lot of people, and I don't know if they get caught up in this, is the competition aspect. There is
Oh,
always good, to me, competition's a good thing. I like competition. The
definitely.
negative side of competition that I don't like is just like you were saying, when it takes away from what its
Mhm.
engagement. So sometimes, some people will look at a band or orchestras as
Right.
playing in a music or singing as being like you're part of the football team, right? You're going to train, train, train. It's competitive, competitive, competitive. They
Yeah.
get you really strong, competitive, competitive. And once you're done, that's it. And you are finished. And that's not the case with music, because
Mhm.
you can still continue. And I think the only reason is I think some people fall off, at that point because, they think, well, if I'm not a music major, I'm done with my instruments, that kind of thing. And
Not
you're not
true.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have the social connections like on a daily basis, what I do and the things I do for fun, whether it's playing
Mhm.
pickleball or going down to see Broadway plays. I do that with my friends who I know from musical groups.
Yeah.
So I would be missing out on so much if I had walked away from instrumental music. And the same thing with the orchestra. Um, like not having that in my life, I
Mhm.
really can't imagine it.
Yep.
And it's funny, I did get a chance to kind of look back at the past because this morning I like you're interviewing me now. I just interviewed a prospective student to go to Vassar College, and she's a local trumpet player who's
Ooh.
studying trumpet. So I was able to kind of put myself in her shoes, and like she'll make her own decision if she gets into the college I was interviewing her for. But like if she gets to study with Jim Osborne, that would be amazing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And like all of the experiences I had at Vassar, like I would love for someone else to have that.
Yeah.
And that's really the motivation for some of what I do.
Yeah.
Like local family members, the little kids come to concerts. Um, the oldest child who just started an instrument in school. She
Hmm.
decided on saxophone, which I feel like looks kind of like a trumpet. But
Hmm.
like I have those pictures of her and her sister and her brother holding my trumpet during a Southern Dutchess concert band concert.
Yeah.
So I feel like it does make a difference, even if it's like little moments in time where they go and they see like this is actually a band that's performing, and
Right.
Jennifer's choosing to do this. She doesn't have to play in this band, but she obviously finds it to be fun. So I want to do this too.
Yeah. And it's cool you're sharing those experiences with others, and especially not in a realm of, like you're the music teacher telling them about the music. You're
Right.
not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I'm
that
just doing it for fun.
yeah, and that's great that you share that just because of how it works for you, especially, because you've had those experiences, and just sharing because I think sometimes they'll expect those folks to, give those experiences. And when you see people in the community to help,
Right.
it's just another way of outreach, which is amazing.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, seeing for Northern Dutchess Symphony Orchestra, I get to see children who are about to select their instruments,
Hmm.
seeing a professional orchestra with people actually playing those instruments,
Yeah.
which I can't imagine having that experience. I mean, I had my dad obviously for trumpet
Yeah.
and my mom for violin, but like seeing a whole orchestra and seeing like the instrument I was about to choose played in that group and seeing a video of a a professional player talking about why they love their instrument, like I feel like that's so impactful. Like
Hmm.
not only does it make someone more into their instrument, but it can help make that decision so that you always hear these stories of someone chose flute and it's not really a good fit for them and then
Hmm.
they didn't stick with it. But maybe if they were given more information up front, they would have picked an instrument that was more suited to them if they
Right.
don't get to switch. So
Yeah.
you always hear those sad stories of someone walking away from something because they weren't great at it or they didn't love it. So I feel like it's a big decision. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you're in third or fourth grade or fifth grade, whenever you make your decision to start playing, sometimes you don't have the information you need.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's great that you're like providing that. And also, there's something big about them seeing actual live music of someone playing, like for example,
Exactly.
the flute player, of a flute player playing their instrument in front of them, especially on stage, so that's a neat aspect too, and talking,
Yeah.
because I think that's where, they just think, sometimes like as you were talking, I was thinking of it's great. There's tons of videos out there, too, and that's helpful
Right.
too. But it's just I'm old school. I like the live experience, because I think
Right.
it'll be the most influential.
Exactly. And I do feel like a lot of the musician relationships I have, like people who I'm friends with, a lot of them are long term. So you join a group, you stick with
Yep,
it. But even if you don't, like, all these people out in the community.
yep,
So even if, let's say, somehow we don't play in the same group for the next 5 years, when we see each other in 5 years and one day, like it
yep,
all comes back to you.
yep.
You're still part of the group. And like the teachers that I had growing up, like John Knight, who plays
Hmm.
in a lot of groups, he was my elementary school band teacher. And I've
Okay.
played in groups, like he was in the FDR alumni band with me. Like
Hmm.
you play with some of the same
Yeah,
people in some cases literally all of your life. Like I've known
yep,
John since I was 5.
yeah. There's something to say about that. And you said it exactly, the big word where it's like you all catch up immediately. Like, because
Right.
I always joke about this, like as you heard in the beginning, we do these kind of pop up different and events that go on and
Yep.
everything. And I might not see everybody the same time every year, but you walk in and it's like you've seen them yesterday. I mean, it's
Yes.
you just have that immediate connection, and I think you said that
Exactly.
from the beginning, that connection, that
Mhm.
I think is it seems very important to you. So that's
It
awesome.
is.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I think I just thought of another motivation. It's new
Sure.
experiences. So we touched on a little, like I've dabbled in some other instruments
Yeah.
like horn, which was because I was playing trumpet in Mid Hudson
Yeah.
Community Orchestra, and a long time ago conductor kept not understanding that I played trumpet and that is why I'm there and I'm holding a trumpet. He kept asking me why I'm not playing the horn part. So eventually I learned horn because I got sick of transposing the horn part onto trumpet because I looked like I should play horn because we didn't have a horn player at one point. So I learned to play horn over that summer so that I didn't have
Huh.
to transpose for 2 hours on end. But I do like that idea of trying new things, like not only trying, but hearing. But in my
Yeah.
case, like I tried the horn. I took clarinet lessons from my friend Debbie Contini, because actually my orchestra did a fundraiser and she donated lessons. No one bid on them, so she had me do it. And then she's a clarinet
Yep.
player, like she plays a lot of instruments, as you know.
Yeah.
But she gave me clarinet lessons, and I play really poorly, but I do play socially because there's the clarinet group that comes
Yep.
out of Southern Dutchess Concert Band. So I play socially,
Hmm.
and poorly, but it's fun trying new things. And then the same thing like the tuba. I think
Yep.
I've been trying that tuba at DCZ, and I don't know how Becky does it because I can barely pick that thing up, but I love like the feeling of playing the tuba and just kind of transferring my skills from, like, I
Yep.
was born with a baritone and a trumpet that my dad had. So like the baritone was as big as I had gone, and now the tuba, like I can play it. I can't exactly lift it. I need help sometimes, but like I
Mhm.
like trying new things and just kind of seeing how it goes, especially since getting back to like there being no pressure. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if I'm the worst tuba player in the world.
Yeah.
If I enjoy playing
Mhm.
it and I have access to a tuba, which I do from all these groups I'm in, I might as well try it. And the worst that
Exactly.
happens is I am the worst tuba player in the world.
Well, I saw it was so funny. I saw it on Facebook. I saw you're like, oh, I'm doing the tuba, and I was like, oh boy, And
You're like,
one thing I wanted to suggest to you, by the way, because I have a lot of friends who do this, who are trumpet players to begin with, will either pick up
yeah.
a baritone or a tuba and come to a tuba Christmas because it's just
Oh,
Christmas music. So just throwing that out there is a little, a little,
it's funny. My friend Chuck Kramer, who plays tuba, he said the same thing because he went up to
yep,
Albany
yep,
for tuba Christmas, and I was tempted to just go because I literally had
yeah,
like I've had a baritone since birth, so there's no reason I shouldn't go
yeah,
to tuba to Christmas. So someday I will go.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, there is, just so
Probably
you
with a
know,
baritone, not a tuba though, because I can't carry a tuba myself.
Well, just so you know, they make treble clef parts, so you can read the trumpet fingering, so it's even easier for you. So
Oh,
just throwing that out there.
and baritone, right? Not on
Yeah,
tuba.
not on tuba, no, baritone.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, I've played that's how I play baritone because I don't know the alternate
yeah,
fingerings. Like
yep,
I'm interested in learning more new things, but I don't think I want to scramble my brain that much. Like even switching to horn, which is in a different key and kind of screwed with my perfect pitch.
sure
And
would.
yeah, it feels really weird to play horn sometimes. And that is an instrument that is hard to walk away from and then pick it back up and actually play it.
Yes, it is. You know that. Well,
Yes, I
hey,
have learned.
as we're kind of wrapping this up,
Mhm.
I thought this is kind of more of a deeper question, which we've already got to some of this, but something to kind of think about. So you know me, I'm interested in keeping people, interested in music, but I was interested in what advice or thoughts that you might be able to provide to others as far as, either you can go either way with it, either, people who are interested in coming out and playing who might not have played in a while. I know you haven't experienced that in your life. I know you've stepped down a little bit, and didn't do
Right.
as much, I guess I'll say it that way. And I'll be honest, I feel the same way. Like even though I play my instruments, I do the same thing, just because of time and work and all that happy stuff. But or folks who are just, wanted to start off brand new, and I'm just interested to see, what you would provide or advice. And maybe you did this already with that trumpet student,
Mhm.
that's in the area, but I'm just interested to see what would you have to say?
So I'd say the person would want to first think about what they want. So some people want to play in a group, some people actually don't. Like they'd love to see groups perform, but they don't need to play in a group themselves.
Okay.
So depending on which they're interested in, if they are interested in rejoining a group, then think about what groups are out there and which one would be the best fit with the person's level and the type of
Hmm.
music that they play and where they rehearse and how often they play. So I'd say talking to people who are playing in the community is a really good first step.
Okay.
And then if the person does want to play, whether it's in a group or just either starting or resurrecting their music chops that they had, I wouldn't hesitate to go back and take lessons like I did on violin.
Hmm.
So I was kind of afraid to do that because I knew I had forgotten a lot and I did have to I played with a teacher who didn't know my potential, so he was listening at what he was hearing in the spot, but I knew what my potential was. So it was
Hmm.
I had to be really self motivated because at the end he was like, "Yeah, you're right. You're good." But like when I started before I got my mojo back, I
Yeah.
wasn't playing playing so great.
Uh-huh.
So I'd say the person has to really know what they want out of it. So whether it's I just want to pick this instrument up and see where it goes, or I definitely want to get into a group, then you want to do some research, find out about which groups are out there. Who do you fit with? So there could be a group that's great level wise, but you
Hmm.
don't connect with the people, or the people aren't
Hmm.
social, and that's what you're looking for. So I think talking to people in the community like you and others who everyone knows someone who plays in a musical group. And
Right.
then from there, you can find the right set of people to make the decisions you need. But either lessons or going back on YouTube, identifying what you want to work on. So there are some people who don't need to actually take lessons. And maybe I could have used YouTube, but it was better to go to a
Right.
professional musician and kind of quickly in 6 months or so get back toward what I used to be on the instrument,
Yeah.
which given as you know that I ended up um being like playing violin more than I thought I would. I
Right.
took those lessons before I was playing violin in Mid Hudson
Mm.
Community Orchestra, and I
Hmm.
never planned to go back and play there. I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose my skills, but I ended up translating those lessons into playing in the community orchestra. So I was able to apply it, but my goal was just to not lose what I had.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, thanks for sharing that. I mean, very powerful because I think we, in my opinions, we find you get into the instruments and then, or you might not had the opportunity to have the instrument. And it's nice to hear how you can continue. And like how you're saying, you took lessons when you were an adult, and that's the biggest thing. Like
Right.
I'm kind of latching onto because I feel it's important because some people think that only happens in school,
Right.
and it doesn't
Or with
necessarily
people
have
who
to.
haven't played before. Like if you're starting out new, like you probably wouldn't feel so weird about taking lessons. But if
Right.
you've been playing since you were 8 years old, there's nothing wrong with taking lessons. Even professional musicians take a touch-up lesson here and there with people maybe
Right.
focused on a specific skill. But I think there's something to be said for training, whether it's formal or informal. And I feel like all of the resources out there, especially like if an adult wants to take up an instrument they haven't
Right.
played before, and I have friends who have never played violin before and they take it up as an adult and they get pretty good.
Hmm.
They just need to really make the decision and put the time and effort into it and believe in themselves, because especially like with an instrument like violin, you're not going to sound great right off the bat, but
Sure. Hmm.
yeah, it's worth the investment.
Yeah, definitely. And the confidence, right? You know?
Yes, yes, you need a modicum of confidence.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much, Jen, for being on this podcast. I do want to say that, you're watching you and like I said, the reason I reached out to you is just because I was very, very interested to see how you're motivated to kind of be in all these different groups. And I commend you for that. And thank you for the community. I mean, I'm sure you see it in other ways, and me saying it probably, means what it means. But, I say it that way because there's so many people who disregard certain things in our life and in the world, and we're not going to go down that road, but it's nice to see you really put your time and effort in something that's really helpful, for other people, and something that I think makes the world a better place. I'll say it that way. So thank you for
Good
that.
job.
So all right, well, hey, thank you again, and you have a good day.
You too. Take care.